It is a crazy night here. And welcome everybody here to the live YouTube broadcast. For those who joining in here quickly, Mike Mayer here off the top rope. We're live here after AEW Dynamite, and I said it here in the thumbnail. I don't know about you guys, but I feel incredibly underwhelmed with this show being 17 days out from All In, and it's listen, okay, you could say that there was some story that happened on this show, Hangman Adam Page. I'm hitting my camera here and I can adjust this live because it's live radio. It's live video here. So you could say that, hey, there was a post-match attack setting up the stage for All In, Hangman getting choked out. Maybe some people are speculating maybe it's a Texas death match, which Hangman and Moxley have already done. This was bookended by the two world championship matches with, attacks. I mean, Mercedes Monet attacked Tony Storm to start the show. It'll lead to a TBS title defense for Mercedes Monet at All In London, not London, All In Texas. I can't even talk anymore. But so it's just I can't help but feel underwhelmed by. They're billing us as AEW's WrestleMania. And I understand that the build for WWE wasn't great, but even the big matches, like, CM Punk and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins felt like a big deal. Obviously Cena and Cody, we can debate it until we're blue in the face how that match went. And, Cena's heel turn and how it went, but that still felt like a big match. And then, the women's triple threat had stuff going on in it. Some of these external matches really didn't feel like a big deal. And they started to build to the gauntlets and everything. But it's just, again, I can't help but feel really underwhelmed by what happened tonight, because outside of, really the biggest development, and this wasn't made official, but Swerve and Osprey officially challenged, Swerve and Osprey officially challenged the Young Bucks basically for their EVP ship. And so that was the major storyline development here. Osprey, and I thought that there was going to be a point here in the main event after that maybe Swerve was going to come out, but they didn't even do that. Like I said, you got 17 days. Next week is Dynamite 300. And then obviously Collision 100, and then you're in the go home spot. There's not a lot of time left. So what are you waiting for? Like, the Death Riders, we knew inevitably that the Young Bucks were going to turn on Hangman because of the confrontation they had a couple weeks ago at Summer Blockbuster. But just, not a whole lot happened on this show outside of that EVP ship. That wasn't even confirmed. They were suspending Swerve, I guess, like without pay or something. Maybe that's why Swerve wasn't there. But that feels kind of like a lame excuse. Swerve coming out in this spot to kind of hey, I'm trying to fend off the Young Bucks in their attack, and I don't like the Young Bucks. I'm going after them, and just starting to tease the tension between the two of them, because that's really yeah, Chief. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Is it was boring. This is a status quo AEW Dynamite with some good wrestling on it, but not a whole lot building to their WrestleMania. And for me, when you're building to a WrestleMania, and again, I know that some of the WWE schmucks will come after me, and because they hate when I'm critical, even though I have been critical of WWE recently. It's just, I understand that WrestleMania 41 was not the most well-built WrestleMania, but their big matches, they put a lot of time and invested television time in. And here's the other thing, and we need to talk about this at some point. Okay, first of all, we'll talk about the other element of this whole thing, the Beast Mortos. Why did Hangman need to have that match? What did that do for Hangman? What did that do for Hangman, man? I mean, come on. You're going blow for blow with the Beast Mortos? A guy who's been living on Collision and loses all the time? I mean, let's face it, guys. We all know why the Beast Mortos got that match. We know. It's because of who he's banging. Let's just call it what it is, man. Mercedes Monet is paying dividends. She's using her CEO responsibilities to get other people in her life ahead. So good for the Beast Mortos. The guy's been 2 main events after never really having a significant presence on Dynamite. So, like, did we really need that to get the closing angle that we got, which was Hangman getting laid out by the Young Bucks and the Death Riders? Did we really need that? This is AEW's problem. They lean onto wrestling. And it's just, maybe they were holding back because of the NBA draft, but that's not an excuse. And they just had and again, this goes back to what I said on the channel last week after they had the really good number where it was like, I think it was like 720,000 was their best number that they'd done in a year. And I was like, use this as motivation to get your people hyped up for your show, for your pay-per-view, your WrestleMania, and use that as momentum to get more people to watch your show. I'm fully expecting this number to be down because they're going up against the NBA draft. And then also, this show wasn't interesting. Tony Khan booked like half of it overnight. Beast Mortos and Hangman was made at like 2-3 o'clock today. What? And then we have an impromptu. I mean, they feigned, like, we knew that the Swerve and Osprey were going to have a tag match, but they feigned that, hey, this was an impromptu match that, hey, they were going to start and they were going to do at a certain point, but it is what it is, man. Listen, man, I just don't understand how you could be, if you're not just an absolute sicko, be excited about All In. Because right now we have 5 matches on this card that have been at least officially confirmed. We probably got 2 more that were confirmed. Tag team titles are going to be on the line, which we knew. And then obviously another tag team match with Swerve and Osprey taking on the Young Bucks. But closing angle, fine. The opening angle in particular, it was the most heat that they've given to this feud, but even then it didn't feel like really authentic. Like, it didn't. Listen, Mercedes tried to ham it up with her toughness and being like, hey, yeah, you want to play games, bitch? Come at me. And then Mina Shirakawa comes up. Good thing is Mercedes didn't say a lot. She did sound a lot more like serious and convicted and like, hey, you insulted me. And this is the problem, is like Mercedes is not a good promo and Tony's going to have to carry her. So they had to resort to this tactic to kind of just, get some heat to it. And I'll give them this. This is the most significant thing they've done in a month. That being said, that's not saying much because they hadn't really done anything since the beginning of this. So Mina Shirakawa gets a TBS title match against Mercedes next week at Dynamite 300. I'd be shocked if Mina won. It would be a very bold statement, bold strategy, Cotton, if Mercedes ultimately won or ultimately lost a title going into All In. That would be a bold strategy, and it would stamp yourself with Mina, but I just don't see that happening. I just don't. So, all right. So let's get into this show here. Those are my overriding thoughts. Like I said, the attack itself was pretty basic, like she throws her into a couple of crates, takes her out to the front to start the show. Also, before I go knee deep into that, Excalibur was extra excited to start this show. He was talking over the pyro. Like, and you couldn't hear him. I was like, dude, wait for the pyro to go off, then do your welcome line and go in. Sometimes it's just, I will say this. Thank God we didn't get Tony Schiavone tonight. He's a nice guy, knows a lot about the business. He's a terrible commentator. He is a terrible commentator. You had Ian Riccaboni out there again, which is a great idea. And I think the reason why they're doing this is because Collision's happening on Thursday, and they're just doing that so they could have it really separated out. So that's really, it's just, listen. So then getting back to the attack, she gets she throws her into a couple of crates, drags her out to the front. Shirakawa, comes out and Mercedes says, "Let the games begin." And I mean, we're beginning the games 17 days before a pay-per-view? Really? You guys had a month to do this. And this was in the realm of sneak attacks backstage, this was pretty tame for my taste. This was, and especially considering the magnitude that this match has, with the team being your two biggest stars, two of the biggest women's wrestlers, women's personalities working in professional wrestling, you would think there would be a little bit more to this. But this felt pretty tame. It was pretty short. It was pretty quick. And, Mina comes out for the save, and that's really the end of it. And we sort of just moved on and go right to the next segment. We don't even give it a chance to marinate. It wasn't even that violent of an attack. No blood, nothing. Like we've seen Tony Storm bleed, for God's sake. We've seen Tony Storm bleed, for God's sake. Like, holy shit, man. Like this was so, for me, it was so underwhelming but I will say this on the positive side, that was probably the best thing that they've done since this match was officially made about 4 or 5 weeks ago. But when you're 17 days out and you're saying, let the games begin, what? You spent 2 weeks eating dinner. You spent last week in Mexico wrestling another match after winning another championship. This has been a horrendously booked feud to start. And for the hype that these two women get, and people think I hate Mercedes. No, I hate what she is presented as and what she has become in AEW. She has become everything that she hated and thought that she was being put down as in WWE. The Charlottes, the Beckys, even the Baileys were getting more opportunities than her. That's the reason why she walked out twice, right? So now she's got 6 belts that she's holding on to, and she's getting her boyfriend into main events. It's like she has got way too much power, and this is an ego trip and an ego power trip of the highest order that I've ever seen in professional wrestling, outside of maybe Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan just swung his dick and his power around whenever he wanted to backstage. And don't take that out of context, please. But you guys know what I mean. So yeah, that attack was pretty plain. Young Bucks basically say, hey, we know your match is later in the nights, but hey, you Swerve and Osprey, you're having your match right now. And so I did this was AEW is not really usually good with attention to detail stuff, but this was a nice little attention to detail where Osprey's music hit immediately. He didn't come out for about a minute or so. And he came out basically just sort of taping his wrists up and sort of getting himself ready as things were going. If I were booking this, I would have had them do this in street clothes. I would have had Swerve and Osprey have this match in street clothes, and have them conquer it that way, and that would have made this. And then also, whose palm did I like Lee Johnson, by the way, but whose palm did Blake Christian grease to ultimately get all these opportunities? I mean, this is about a 10-minute match. Blake Christian eats the pin. Swerve and Osprey worked really well together. The Bucks were on the ramp for the post-match stuff, or for the match itself and the post-match stuff. And basically, Osprey and Swerve trash talk the Young Bucks after the match, and ultimately, this leads to Will Ospreay proposing, "Hey, we want to face you guys at All In." So Swerve made the challenge for All In, and then Osprey basically said, "Hey, let's raise the stakes." And I was like, "Oh, what are they going to do this?" And then Osprey poses the thing, "Hey, you guys put your EVP spot on the line in this match." And that's a stake that, I think, if you're going to do something like this, I think this was the right step to potentially make this at least a little bit more interesting. So, it's probably the most significant thing that happened on this show tonight. It really is. That's one of my main takeaways from this match is hey, it was probably the most significant thing that happened on this show is that, Bucks versus Swerve and Osprey, which I don't think is technically official, is going to be basically Young Bucks and their whole EVP spots on the line. The way Osprey made it seem is that, are Swerve and Osprey going to be EVPs? I don't think that's the way they meant it, but it's a good way to beef up that storyline. Then we get something backstage where the Young Bucks respond to this and basically, So Swerve, to close the segment after this challenge is all laid out, he does a Swerve stomp to a bunch of security that were guarding the Young Bucks. And so he basically gets suspended for a week without pay. Okada walks up. Basically, he introduces members of the Don Callis family. They all have common goals. And I think this is setting the stage for Trent Beretta to go have his match with Kota Ibushi. So Okada, Don Callis, interestingly enough, was not there. Ibushi is the other piece of this. And then here was a good thing that happened. Konosuke Takeshita, who was in this segment, he basically walks up to Okada and basically says, hey, this is only temporary. And Okada rolled his eyes and moved on. So we're setting the stage for that. That's the match I want to see after Omega Okada. Ibushi and Trent Beretta went about 7 minutes. Ibushi looked pretty good for a guy who hasn't wrestled in a while. And afterwards, we get the match set up that we, a lot of us expected that we were going to get Okada versus Ibushi. Some people were saying Forbidden Door. They're doing it next week on Dynamite 300 from Ontario, California. That's a big match to go to. Hey, they're trying to beef it up. Here's my issue. Here is my issue. And I would assume that next week in Ontario is going to be the spot where Kenny Omega comes back. I understand that they did the attack. And they did it in a certain way. But to me, if you're building this up as one of your biggest matches of the show, Kenny Omega's got to be on television. You could do like a promo from a hospital bed or something, or you do something, or do him at home laboring in his bed or something and cutting some sort of promo where he's like, having a hard time breathing. To have Kenny Omega miss the last 2 weeks of television, to me, is creative malpractice. Like, I understand that these guys have had great matches, but they haven't faced each other in 7 years. And you have that video package and that great contract signing with the closing angle with the really fake blood, and they haven't done anything since. They brought in Kota Ibushi, and Kota Ibushi is going to be used as a vehicle to get Kenny Omega back. But you've now wasted 2 weeks. And I understand that this doesn't need a lot of story, but here's the other element that really is mess with my mind. Don Callis was nowhere to be found on this show. I know a lot of people don't like Don Callis, but at least they kind of addressed, Okada, you're with Don Callis. Hey, watch out for him. And they introduce each other. Hey, we have a common goal. That was good, but the rest of this is like Kenny Omega's not there, and you brought in Don Callis specifically into this storyline to be somebody who can talk for Okada. And really, aside from there was something on Collision that really happened. That's really all that's been done, because they didn't do anything really in Mexico last week. They just put a bunch of guys in a match. They had a 14-man tag or whatever the hell it was. So that's my issue there. So Jon Moxley gets a promo backstage. He says Hangman has an opportunity to grasp the prize. He has slipped that has slipped through his hands dozens of times. Moxley questioned if he would show up this time, but he doubted it. He said Hangman is too humble and backs away from glory, and said he had no stomach for his crybaby emo act. Moxley told Hangman to reach out and grab it and stop shying away from his gifts. He then said he would keep fiddling around with the enemies that attack from the past, and then Moxley would elbow him in the face, and it would be time for him to look for a new job. So, listen, decent enough Moxley promo. But, like I said, this just doesn't feel like the main event of WrestleMania. It doesn't feel that big. We get Ricochet and AR Fox for some reason. This was, I guess, announced on social media that Ricochet and AR Fox were going to be a team because Ricochet is trying to pursue gold. And they take on Jet Speed, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey, they're a lot of fun, very high-flying act. Kevin Knight is a whole bunch of fun. These guys are great, but do I have any reason to care? Because here's the reason why. So we did get Tony Schiavone for this one portion of the show. So Jet Speed gets interviewed after the match. Like Ricochet walked away from AR Fox, which no surprise. So listen, AR Fox is actually really good. The problem is there's no reason to care because this guy just eats pinfalls like they're no tomorrow. He's got a really cool entrance. Not a really cool entrance. He's got a really cool move set. So just it's just it's just. And then the post match afterwards, they get interviewed on the stage. Mike Bailey said the tag team championships have been held hostage for too long, and it was time for someone to rescue them. And Kevin Knight said they were held hostage like OKC has held the Supersonics hostage for years. That was an interesting line. I think we got 2 Supersonics references in this entire segment because they challenge Hurt Syndicate for All in Texas, and then they just get ambushed by them and they get thrown through a table. It was Knight getting powerbombed through Bailey or the other way around. And so they get their official introduction. And basically said, Benjamin and Lashley, they'll face Jet Speed if you guys can walk. Jeez, that's a rousing endorsement. Your tag team title match, you just destroyed the 2 guys who your top challengers. Like that was odd. Like, listen, I get that Bailey, it's hard to sell that, but it's just like this tag team division has really gone off a deep end. So then MJF cuts a promo, says the crowd hasn't seen an athlete like him since the Sonics left. So that was MVP actually who said that. I found that interesting because, like, listen, the Sonics haven't played in Seattle in almost 20 years. I understand it's low-hanging fruit because the Thunder won the NBA championship on Sunday, but you could have gone with, you know what, Ashen, you're right. They have he has a great moveset. Yeah, that's the big issue, I think, with guys like AR Fox. He would stand out so much more if he wasn't the same guy. I will say this, that like it's been a very unique moveset, and if AEW can differentiate and distinguish their roster, then maybe this product wouldn't feel so dull, if you guys know what I mean, right? Like that's just one of those, it's weird. So the Sonics reference was weird. You could have said like Ken Griffey Jr. or something like that. Like, you could, because it just felt like, hey, you're going with the Sonics. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. hasn't been seen in that town in a while, but he's probably the best athlete that Seattle's seen. I mean, you could have said Marshawn Lynch if you want to be more recent. I don't know, Seahawks. Bobby Wagner, Seahawks football. Any football fans in the house? So MJF says he's got a qualifying match for the Casino Gauntlet next week. So let's stop there. Wait, MJF's got to qualify? Like now we're doing like I understand that and Mark Briscoe came out next to basically have the number 1 spot. I mean, we haven't done qualifying matches for this in the first place. And it's just, it's hard to really care like with this gauntlet. And it's just like MJF's the type of guy who, he's got all this power. And he's got to be in a qualifying match. So he's got to work more. That's his whole gimmick. So Mark Briscoe comes out. Mark Briscoe, and he tried to get him out of the ring. It's just, MJF, just, tries to get him out of there. And he basically, sort of mocks him saying that he's like a lot of the people, they're dirt poor, go back to scooping up chicken shit on your farm in Delaware. Really the highlight of this whole promo was Briscoe. He said the word of the day was empathy because he knows that Max's words are hurtful from a place of pain. He recalled Max being bullied as a child and said his hate comes from a place of inadequacy. And he explains it to him like this. He has that tiny kosher pickle in his pants, and we get a kosher pickle chant, which was it was kind of entertaining. Alicia Atout, I don't know if you guys caught this on the internet, Alicia Atout, the girlfriend of MJF, said that it is not tiny. So in case you were wondering, not that I really cared, but hey, I mean, as a guy who's a Jewish guy who watches Max as a Jewish guy, hearing kosher pickle, it was kind of funny. So Leave it. I think Mark. If you guys want to talk about differentiating the roster, Mark Briscoe's moveset is like a lot of the roster, but his character's unlike anything that AEW has. He's just a wild animal, and I love Mark Briscoe. So then we get the Fatal 4-Way: Roderick Strong, Bandito, Mark Briscoe, Konosuke Takeshita. Big spot in this match. Takeshita hit a double German suplex. They called it the 42 suplex because Bandito was going for his 21 suplex, but Takeshita comes out and hits a double German, which looks sick. Takeshita is just a gift. Konosuke Takeshita is a freaking gift to professional wrestling. And whenever he breaks out from this Don Callis vortex, it'll be a great thing. Briscoe ends up winning with the Froggy Bow. So he pins Roderick Strong to win this match. So Mark Briscoe is your number one entrant in the Casino Gauntlet in 17 days time at All In Texas. After the match, we get a video backstage. Adam Cole offered to defend the TNT Championship against any member of the Don Callis family on Collision this week. And so that's a quick transition, and we go back into the arena for the second of two four-way matches for the number one spot in the Eliminator, the Casino Gauntlet. It's Thunder Rosa, Athena. Good to see Athena. They saw all the stuff on the internet and they put Athena on back-to-back shows. Good for them. Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. What a great foursome this is. A lot of great stuff in this match. Goes about 12 minutes. But then we get Marina Shafir coming out seemingly to help Chris Statlander. Wheeler Yuta sneaks up behind Willow Nightingale. Willow delivers a pounce to Wheeler Yuta, and Chris Statlander uses the opportunity to deliver a Tombstone Pile Driver, her Wednesday Night Fever, for the win. Chris Statlander is your number one entrant. They're seemingly planting something here. Ultimately, I think that Chris Statlander will side with Willow Nightingale. They're just delaying this whole thing. I don't get why Willow needed to take the finish. Yes, the women's division is absolutely being wasted with both champions. This has been my whole thing with this whole situation the entire time. With my whole thing is that it's just you have this whole situation where all these women are being thrown in a gauntlet match that we don't know how many people are going to get in. Cool to get them opportunities, but Athena not being on this show in her home state of Texas and throwing her into a random gauntlet, that's just, guys, this isn't the Royal Rumble where everybody's fighting for a title opportunity. This is your biggest show of the year, and you're throwing one of your top women. Actually, I would say all four of these women. Thunder Rosa hasn't been booked that way, but Thunder Rosa deserves a lot better than this, and they're just they're completely wasting their women's division. Excuse me. Live stream here. But they're just wasting their women's division, and it's not leading to anything. And when you have a TBS champion who next week is going to defend her title for only the sixth time this year, going into a women's championship match in 17 days time, where she's facing the most popular woman in this division who's also beaten everybody else. And everybody asked me, well, Mike, what has Toni Storm done better that Mercedes Monet has done? And said, who has she gotten over in the process, or who has she elevated outside of Mariah May? Listen, I get the point of what was being said there, because I get what the point is there, because Toni really, like, she's faced Deonna Purrazzo, and really Mercedes is a big opponent. Megan Bayne was kind of elevated for a couple weeks. Mina Shirakawa got a win, and she's being associated with it. Toni is it just feels like she's doing more for the division and trying to grow it. And but yeah, I don't think listen, some people are trying to be smart Alex on the internet, saying that Mercedes could lose the TBS title. Listen, if there was going to be a way for her to lose a match, going into or getting or winning a match without technically getting a title, it was last week. You could have had Toni do that DQ there, but I don't think she loses. I think Mina is going to lose this match, and with all she's built up with all these 6 titles, you can't lose a title 10 days out. So yeah, I definitely think that this is going to be one of those situations where I don't think Mercedes is going to lose that match. But the women's division as a whole in AEW, with all the talent that they have, they're talking about creating the women's tag team titles, and I'm just like, yeah, it's a consolation prize because nobody else is worthy of these championships right now, because Mercedes has put them all aside to just get to the world title. And Tony Storm took the title back because Mariah May was leaving. So this is what you get when you're beholden to one person. Speaking of being beholden to one person, okay, before we get there, FTR basically challenges the Outrunners. What the hell happened? I heard a story that Christian is trying to finish up a story with the patriarchy. So Adam Copeland, 17 days out, we thought he was going to be on this show. Adam Copeland, 17 days out, is not on this show. It seemingly looks like. I don't know where he's going to be. Maybe he comes back and helps the Outrunners next week, but Adam Copeland missing All In for the second consecutive year is a little bit bizarre. Maybe they're holding out for this whole Christian Cope reunion for Toronto at All Out in August, or I think it's August or September, I think. I think it might be actually September. So, because Forbidden Door is in August. That's right. So yeah, it's just, I don't know what they're doing with FTR. They're kind of spinning their wheels ever since that heel turn that really, I thought was really well done, and they haven't really capitalized on it. So, okay, here we are. Speaking of, getting privilege and getting opportunities that you probably don't deserve, the Beast Mortos main evented this show. Yeah, there's been no build for like almost all of these matches so far. This main event made no sense to the overall reason of the show. Excalibur gives this reason, because Beast Mortos teamed with that team last week, he teamed with the Young Bucks last week, and it led to, the Beast. I guess Beast Mortos gets into this. Guys, we all know what's going on here. We know exactly what's going on here. And I don't know why Tony Khan's doing it, because I know Tony Khan likes the Beast Mortos, but he never booked him in this fashion until it became public 2 weeks ago that Mercedes Monet and the Beast Mortos are dating. Again, like, what? The Beast Mortos in the last 2 weeks, when you are less than a month away, you're now like just over 2 weeks away. Last week it was 24. Now we're at 17. Back-to-back main events of AEW Dynamite where the Beast Mortos has main evented a show. I think he's a talented guy, but he's got the same moveset as everybody else. He's another luchador, a little slightly bigger luchador, but what's different from him than any of the other luchadors that come in? And that guy's main eventing against Hangman Adam Page? Are you serious? Are you freaking serious? Like, I saw this and I laughed because I was like, oh my God, Mercedes. It's like, man, you could just, be stupping or just, banging a top woman in the company, and she just flexes her muscles, and all of a sudden, magically, this guy's in the main event 2 weeks. Like, what? And then Hangman, listen, I love Hangman. Hangman got the win here, and it led into the overall story at the end. But for this to go 10 minutes in the main event of this show, and for Hangman to be basically going kind of 50-50 with Mortos getting some good spots in, there's no reason for the number one contender for the world championship, just over 2 weeks away from main eventing one of the biggest matches AEW is trying to put on this show. There's no reason for him to be going 10 minutes and kind of somewhat 50-50 or somewhat like taking offense from the Beast Mortos. You could have put him in there with Wheeler Yuta. It would have made more sense. It wouldn't have been great. In my preference, I wouldn't have booked a match here. I would have tried to get a promo out of this. But like, you could have put, where the hell is Claudio? Where the hell is Claudio? Like, seriously, where in the fuck is Claudio? I know Pac's not there. Why was this the Beast? Seriously. And until you give me a better explanation, we all know why he was in the main event, because now this is 2 weeks in a row that this guy has gotten a spot because of who he is banging. Let's just call it what it is. Seriously. Is it in her contract that she could book the men's division too? Like, people think that I hate Mercedes. Let me say this again for those of you just jumping on here. I don't hate Mercedes. I hate the way that she is flexing her creative muscles, and she has become the ultimate fucking hypocrite. Because the whole reason that she came to AEW and she left WWE was to grow women's wrestling. That was the whole thing, right? She was growing women's wrestling. And the reason why she left is because people who we thought got opportunities more than she did, like Charlotte, Becky Lynch, to some degree, Bayley, Alexa Bliss, and, you know, like some of these people were winning championships from her and beating her. And we all thought, and we all saw in WWE that Mercedes, Sasha Banks, was probably the best, one of the best women's wrestlers in the entire world. I'm not dismissing that. But for her to go to AEW after everything that she has said about growing the game and growing women's wrestling, to now only have 97 championships, all this creative power, she's in another championship match, holding another title, and then she's with a luchador who we've seen on AEW television job out to every guy under the sun, and now this guy is main eventing the show. It's pretty much simply because of who he is with, who he is dating. That is nepotism, basically. Like, if you're Tony Khan, what the fuck are you doing? Grow a fucking set and get control of this place. Because one, this match didn't need to be booked 17 days away from your biggest show. Hangman Adam Page did not need to get a win. The guy already went through a grueling tournament over a month to win this opportunity against Jon Moxley. Build a story. And you had a compelling go off the air angle, which was, you know, pretty basic, but still, at least if you had done a promo or something. And then also, if you want to have Swerve involved in that, because that's clearly part of this story. Yeah, I just don't get that. So then let's get to the post-match attack. So Hangman wins, buckshot, 10 minutes, boom, it's over. It was like I said, Morto's got a ton of offense in it, but like I said, that match didn't need to happen. The closing angle was fine. Listen, I do not, listen, the Young Bucks, I get it. Like, so the Young Bucks, the lights go out, they EVP trigger, Hangman, and, it leads to the Death Riders coming in for the attack. Osprey comes in, basically, like, the way I looked at this, and I've said this on the channel, the more that this keeps playing out, the more I get the vibe that Hangman was supposed to, you know, be in the Osprey role, and Osprey was supposed to be in the Hangman role. That's the way this has come across television for me, is that Osprey was probably going to be earmarked to be the guy to win this. And then I guess, you know, this went to the 11th hour. Tony either changed his mind or it was 50-50 and he went one way. But the way that this had been building for a while was that Hangman and Swerve were going to team up. But now Hangman's going for the world title. So, and they haven't done a really good job of pivoting, because it's basically the same story that they had played out. It's just the roles are shifted. Because what the fuck do the Young Bucks have to do with the world title? Like, what the fuck do they have to do with the world title? Also, the Young Bucks were way too much over this show tonight. It really just get them. I hope that they do go with that. They're going to probably go with that stipulation. Hopefully they lose the EVP thing and just get that out of the storyline, because that ain't working. That isn't working. So Ops come in for the save. Osprey comes in for the save. Hangman getting choked out with a chain. And heels get cleared out. Medical staff looks at Hangman to close the show. But the big matches, and you guys have mentioned it in the chat. Here's my biggest thing. And what I said on the tag for this video. This show's called All In. They're not so all in right now on this show. They're not. Because you mean to tell me this is going to be your biggest show in North America? You're struggling to get to 19,000 tickets with just over 2 weeks to go, and your big matches don't feel nearly as big as they should. Granted, they look good on paper. There's been, like, again, opening the show with and closing the show with some beatdown segments. The Mercedes thing felt very tame, very mundane, very basic. Didn't really like, it was the most heat filled that they had, but that's literally all they've done in 4 or 5 weeks since this match was official. And we've got 5 officially announced matches for this show, the 3 obvious ones and the 2 gauntlets. We're going to probably get 2 more added to this, so that takes us to 7. But unless you're a diehard sicko, are you really? I asked this earlier. Are you guys excited for this show? Because I'm not. Like it tells you that the paying customer isn't clearly not pumped for this. Because when you have those matches on this show, you should be blowing past 20,000. They're struggling. They are struggling to get past 20,000 tickets for a stadium show in North America. The minimum expectation for this was to at least get past Arthur Ashe for the first Grand Slam. That was the minimum expectation. But here we are, June 25th, 2025. By the way, happy birthday, Dad. I know you're probably not watching this, but happy birthday to my father, Julian Mayer, who turns 76 years young today. So give him a special shout out here on this live stream, because we barely go live on this channel. So, it's live radio. I can just, blurt out whatever the hell I want. So on June 25th, here we are. And it's just, you look at this card and you're not even, and you're probably going to pass it, but it's going to be a late surge in ticket sales. You're probably going to be lucky to get to 25. And all I hear from AEW cultists and sickos is that, well, they've outsold a bunch of WrestleManias, and they used the COVID WrestleMania 37, because they had 18,000 each night in Tampa when it was a significantly restricted WrestleMania for COVID. And the other WrestleManias that they would have surpassed were not in stadiums. In a baseball stadium, if you book a baseball stadium, the minimum that you should be expecting to do is at least 25. At least 25, because you can get about 35 to 40 in Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, where the Texas Rangers play. But you're not at 20,000. And you still, for weeks on end, have not given the fans any reason to really give a shit about these matches. But hey, they're great wrestling, sure. Guys, we know that. That's been AEW's identity for the longest time, is great wrestling. You've got to have compelling stories to sell these shows. And Kenny Omega's not on this show for a second consecutive week. Will Osprey and Swerve have the most meaningful thing of the night. Hangman, they do the same thing over again, and we don't even get enhancement with the Swerve element, which would have made the main event thing a little bit, but it's very distracted. And then Mercedes and Tony did probably the most heat-filled thing that they've done in their entire feud. But even that didn't feel that significant, because Mercedes just attacked her. It wasn't even really that vicious. Like, there wasn't really like an injury angle or anything like that. And it just sort of stopped. It went on really quickly, and it moved off of it. And Mercedes is going to face Mina Shirakawa in another match 10 days out from the show. So if you're looking at that, and then you've got the gauntlet matches, we don't know what MJF's doing. He's presumably going to be in the gauntlet, which makes sense. Everybody was thinking he was going to do a match with Mystico. That they seemingly forgot about that really quickly. I mean, maybe that gets addressed next week, but again, you're a week and a half out next week. So, like, I just, people just think whenever I do these streams or whenever I do these videos that I hate AEW. I hate how stubborn AEW has become, because they do not deviate from the plan. They do not deviate what they do. Even what they do well is not connecting, and you're not changing. And then when you have the 3 matches that you have on this bill, which are really great matches, like just from a names perspective, I could tell, like, when I saw these matches were going to be in the cards, if you would have given me some sort of proper story, maybe these would feel like a bigger deal, but I just don't feel that invested in this right now. I don't know about you guys in the chat here. Again, go follow me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it, Off the Mic 28, OT Mike Sports, up there in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not so all in, man. So I'll sort of wrap up here. If you guys have any questions for the next, like, or about 60 to 90 seconds, I'll kind of filibuster here. And if you guys have any questions for me in relation to this show or All In, drop them in here and I can answer them. If not, I'm going to sign off here within the next minute or so. Yeah, like I said, it just feels like they're spinning their wheels. So, it's just, and PHX Master, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the sub. And listen, all I'm trying to do, and some people just misrepresent me in the comments or anything or on social media. I am not an AEW hater. Let me be clear about that. I talk about him a lot because I'm frustrated because this was a beacon of light hope for this company in 2019 because Vince McMahon's WWE sucked. And it was, and people act like, oh, nothing. People act like, like this is the same AEW or better than AEW than, when they started. And I'm like, no, they had stories. Hangman and Omega, Hangman and Omega as a team, their arc out of that, the Young Bucks match at Revolution. Even some of the early stuff with Cody was solid. Like Brody Lee, like they had good stuff going on in this company before COVID, and then for like a year or so after COVID. But then when Cody left, and then when CM Punk got fired, the creative juices of this company just leaked out, and it's like they have no creative fortitude or power whatsoever. And now you've put it all in the hands of the wrestlers and you're seeing what's going on here because too many titles, too many shows, not enough storytelling. Your women's division is dead and you just have nothing. You have nothing of note that's really feels important going into this show. And then you look around and you like, everybody's like, well, okay, yeah, we sold a lot of tickets and, we're the number, and AEW Sickles will say, well, we're the second promotion, but most people wouldn't sell it. It's like, guys, you booked a fucking baseball stadium. Don't give me the bullshit that, hey, most companies wouldn't be able to get to this. It's like Chris Jericho was parading himself around like Chris Jericho was parading around and basically saying, we're going to beat Raw at one point. This was like 4 years ago. So anybody who wants to convince me and tell me that AEW hasn't been trying to catch WWE is full of shit. Because why are they signing a bunch of WWE people? Why are a bunch of WWE people basically in key spots in this company? And then the storytelling, there's nothing there. What was good 4 or 5 years ago is not there anymore. There's no creative storytelling. Your top women's match is really just nothing. Like what are these two fighting over aside from being the best women's wrestler? And they haven't even hammered that point home. And they're talking about let the games begin 17 days before a pay-per-view. What the fuck is this, man? So it's just, I don't know. So it's we'll see, man. But they're running out of time to make this interesting. And for a WrestleMania level show, this does not, I said it, not all in. Drama overshadowing the shows, like, creative control overshadowing backstage, not listening to the fans for the most part. Like, it's all these things. The stubbornness of this company has really bothered me. So let me be clear. I am not hating AEW. I just do not like what they have become. And it's almost like they took that money last October, got that new renewal, and they have rested on their laurels. And they have just said, fuck it. We're just going to do whatever the fuck we want and, move forward. So that's it for me on here. Thanks so much, everybody, for popping on here. Very lively chat. Appreciate you guys all being interactive here on the channel. Go hit that subscribe button, if you will. We're over 1,500 subscribers. I appreciate you guys so much. Even the ones that interact with me and tell me that I'm fucking stupid. I appreciate the interaction. And I appreciate doing this because I don't like the tribalistic nature that wrestling has become, but I do appreciate that you guys all have an opinion. And the fact that I'm saying something and you're reacting to me tells me that you genuinely care about things, even if we don't agree on something. So, but all I'm trying to do is speak what I think is the truth. You guys don't have to agree with me, but most of you in the chat, I appreciate you being very lively here. And yeah, 300th episode next week. No real hype up for it, just a couple of graphics there. So, hey, that shows you how this company's priorities are checked in. They can't even book their biggest pay-per-view, and then they're having the 300th edition of their flagship show. They had more publicity for, when they passed WCW than they did for AEW 300. So that tells you where their priorities are. All right.